Good morning, everybody. Now that the birds have joined me in here, I figured I'd fire up a video. This morning we are waiting for, well, Chef Farmer's out. They got the PTO working. The wire had pulled out of one of the sensor plugs. Kind of disappointed that we didn't catch that, but anyway, tractor's good. Got a little bit of rain last night. The harvester crew that we were waiting on to do the manure didn't quite get done last night before it rained. They had some issues with the harvester. Kind of waiting for them to get the last field cleaned off, and then we'll head over and get the manure looked after. But we're going to start on the bale fork project in the meantime. I'm kind of excited for this because I very rarely get to use new steel. So new steel for the fork and new steel for our crawler trailer. Still needs railings put up the side. From the new crawler's a little bit wider than the old crawler, so they had to cut the old railings off. And we kind of got impatient and said, well, just load the thing up and we'll get going and we'll deal with it later. And the steel is later now. So we got the spear holder, we got the tines, spears. Going to torch a hole in the tube, top and bottom. This inserts through, weld it around. Should be nice and solid as long as I get them nice and square. It's nothing worse than tines being crooked, but yeah. We'll do the two outsides first, and I'm thinking that I'll be 16 inches from outside the next tine in, which would be right about there, just to avoid having to play around the quickie attach with the way that square tube is welded on there. I'm going to put all the spears in. I'll probably set it on the floor and be able to get it flat and measure tip to tip to tip to tip, make sure everything's square. Then I can tack the holders in and then go to town welding. Rather than try and square each one individually, I'll just do them as a group, and if one's off, they're all off. So that's the start of it. They didn't have, I would have preferred 4 of this length, but the next I had was actually shorter. So we went with the longer ones. They're 42 inches, I think, or 44. And we do 48-inch bales, 4 feet. So, but yeah, I'll measure back is 16.5 in between center to center. Make sure I'm 16.5, 16.5. And then I, in theory, should be tip to tip, same to same. Try and get them as square as I can. If you don't get them square, they actually makes it a real pain in the butt to get the spears back out of a tough bale. Dry straw doesn't ever matter, but if you have a tough bale, you'll know it if your spears aren't straight. So. Okay, got them all tacked into place. This fork isn't really being a team player, but if 1 out of 3 is not perfect, that's not so bad. We can loosen the nut, and yeah, we'll be able to figure out one time. But biggest thing is square, and yeah, obviously the height matters a lot, but So now I have to be careful. Like, I tacked them in a bunch of different spots, but I have to make sure I don't pull too bad while I'm welding it, or else they'll go all crooked again anyway. So, well, we got this buttoned up. Let that cool down. That's the finicky part done anyway. Other than welding the loader attachment on, which is a little bit of finessing, but yeah. Just build a cage on the back, and it's really not that hard from this point on. So. Not the prettiest. The gaps were a little bigger than they probably should have been, but yeah. So Chris called saying we can go do manure. I just went by my house to change my shirt. We'll go sit in the AC for a little bit. Okay, let's go tank some poo. As per usual, there is nowhere to hang you in the tractors that I don't normally drive, so catch up when we get going. Playing a little bit of tight quarters, just trying to stay out of the harvester's way. Yeah. See if we can get a bit better at backing up today. Oh, so close. Oh, there we go. Why do you keep going to the side like that, boo? It's a little obnoxious. Guess I have to aim further away from the fill spout for how the boot acts. There, okay. Right. Turn my remote on, start bumping the F, and it starts filling my tank. The remote's pretty cool, or convenient, I guess. But I always get out anyway, because if your remote doesn't work, you have to run very, very fast to the tractor. And another thing is, if you don't turn your remote off, it'll actually interfere with the other tank's remote, and neither of them won't work, and then you make a mess that way. So. Couldn't get much of a shorter haul today. I got a tricky first load, trying to fill in a little triangle wedge, so I'm revving the tractor down as the spread width is getting narrower, so I'm not overlapping the minimal amount possible. I should have closed it, or not revved up as high here, but it is what it is. I've got the tractor revved right down as far as it'll go. And I could actually start closing my front valve if it was for extended periods of time. I would do that, but we'll just get through this little section here with minimal overlap so we don't kill the hay. And rev back up again. And down the field we go. The manure leaking out of the front is stress cracks in the barrel itself. And or holes being worn in it from all the sand we pump. It's kind of annoying that they're still leaking, because we did take the fronts off 3 weeks ago and kind of weld everything up in there, so I don't know why it's still leaking. But we do a lot of pig manure onto wheat stubble, so in the next month and a half we'll be doing a lot of that. As long as it doesn't drip going down the road, it's kind of whatever, but it is frustrating that that's still an issue after the repairs we were supposed to do. But tanks are old, they're 2016 models. They moved a lot of manure in their lifetime. So definitely on the upgrade list, but these ones aren't worth anything anymore either, so we might as well run them until they don't work anymore. everything going on in the spring was kind of the first major wear item other than the stuff that actually touches sand. So they really weren't too bad to maintain up until now. And I think that one was kind of maybe just a one-off. Maybe the castle nut worked its way loose, the car pin broke or something. Who knows? But it's that way for now. So it would have been I think it was the second video that I ever posted, vlogged, whatever you want to call it. We were putting welding some pipes to our manure tanks on the inside, and we put a elbow gizmo on the back. That has been working as we intended it to. Since doing that, we have not had to physically split the hose in between the two tanks to unplug them. We're able to blast the sand out of that center 14 or 12 inch hose using the tank itself. So saved a lot of time and labor not having to deal with that. One disadvantage that we found is the two valves at the back, the way we have them plumbed up, one always closes before the other one opens, so there is a split second where the manure has nowhere to go. And we have been blowing our little 6-inch spread hoses more often if the guys forget to let those valves transition before they turn the PTO on and fire it up. So I'm sure there's a way to make it so that one valve is always open. I don't care which one is always open, as long as one is always open. Probably with restrictors and or orifices or something like that. Something we gotta look into, because yeah, we get start filling in a corner and you kind of panic and you press the wrong button and then you head the manure, and the easiest place to go is up the rubber hose. So, but other than that, we have not had to split the tanks at all, which is awesome. Especially with that new crawler and the way it works. It's definitely a good thing to have the tanks set up like they are now. So. Once again, we're filling in a little wedge. It's not ideal turning when the PTO is on, but kind of is what it is with these manure tanks. So yeah, I've got the tractor revved down, then I'm spreading narrower. I don't like turning that sharp. Chewed up a bit of hay there, that's unfortunate. These tanks do spread all of good 60-70 feet wide, so at least they don't have to turn as sharp to get back beside themselves. So it makes PTOs last a little longer, but eventually they just, yeah, try and keep one side of the field straight anyway. They're not always turning, but it doesn't always work out like that. Okay, we're running the first load down the road to the furthest and only field down the road, I guess. But yeah, 280 Magnum on the tank today. That's okay. I don't know if you really noticed yet. 30 horsepower left. But this one still has the engine brake, so you can literally drive all day without having to touch the brakes. So, oh, blind corners everywhere though. That's brutal. I think there's only like 30 acres down the road here, so it shouldn't take us too long. Sounds like the harvester's still not going, but we'll be able to cover everything but the 4 rows that they have left. So, I don't know if I should turn here. I'm not turning here. Tractor in the ditch and the tank. We're waiting for Chris to get emptied. We're kind of just leaving a headlamp for now, I guess. I'll maybe start spinning. I guess I had a flat tire, so that's unfortunate. Don't really plan for that kind of stuff. So. And then we got the rain, so I have to wait for the hail to change out. But we'll cover what we can. So I covered up to where Chris ran out, and I just pulled out, and now I am agitating the inside of my tank. So the pump is actually blasting the manure to the back tank, which is forcing it to flow back to the front tank. I don't have crawler running today, so the sand isn't really a big issue. This is a sand pit, but just do that to keep them flowing nicely, and take advantage of the non-sand jobs to get all the sand out of the tank, and we don't slowly build up. I weighed a tank last, it would have been 2 falls ago, that we had plugged with sand, and it weighed 70 ton empty. So you definitely take advantage of these thinner, watery jobs to clean your tank out so that you can get through a sand job or two without building up too bad.